Our first word for this unit is abscond. Abscond is a verb that means to run off and hide. Usually you abscond with someone or something, and that's the reason that you are running off and hiding. But you can use it just to mean to run off and hide. Your synonyms are bolt, make off, and skip town. You have no antonyms for this word. And our other forms are the other verb forms, absconds, absconding, and absconded. And then the noun form, absconder, is the person who is absconding, but it's not quite as common as just the verb forms of this word. Now, our picture, somebody's clearly absconding with something. He's got that bag and something is probably in it. And our sentence, and this is a true story, this happened to me in a previous school year. After the student stole her Amazon package, they absconded into the hallway traffic at the end of the day and disappeared. So they stole something and then they ran off with it and hid, and they made off with it. They skipped town. They didn't really, I'm sure they came back to school, but they bolted as well. So our first word is abscond. Our second word is access, and I'm hoping this is a word you're really familiar with, but I do want you to look at the two parts of speech. It's both a noun, which is approach or admittance to places, persons, things, or an increase, and your verb form to get at or to obtain something. Your synonyms and antonyms are only for the noun form of the word. So your synonyms for the noun form are entry and ingress. Your antonym is total exclusion. You have your other verb forms, accessed, accessing, and accesses. You have your plural noun form, accesses. That door is access. You can, have admittance to something if you open the door. And my sentence, I'm using the noun form as well. I am so trendy and hip, obviously true. I have special early access to all the latest cool stuff on the internet, TikToking things. I don't really know how TikTok works. I got to be honest with you. So that word is access. Then we move into arduous. Sounds kind of like there's a G or a J in the middle of the word, even though it's spelled like with a D in it, but it's pronounced arduous. It's an adjective and it means hard to do or requiring much effort. So that man is climbing up a frozen mountain face that is a very arduous task that he is taking on. Our synonyms are hard, difficult, laborious, like labor intensive, or fatiguing, something that makes you really tired because it requires a lot of effort. Your antonyms are easy, simple, and effortless. You've got your adverb form, arduously, which is a really common version of arduous. You do hear the adverb form quite a bit. And then the noun form, the state of being arduous, is arduousness, the N-E-S-S ending. And then our sentence, although I really like it, most of my students find reading and writing to be arduous, exhausting, and overly difficult. A lot of you do find that to require a lot of effort, or genuinely you find it really, really hard to do. It does not come easily to you. Then we get into disentangle, which is a verb. Again, I'm hoping this one you know, or you go, oh, this is a really easy word. It simply means to free from tangles or complications. So you can literally disentangle something, like in the picture there, they are trying to disentangle that string or yarn or whatever it is that's all tangled up. But it can also be used in a non-literal sense, and you'll see that when we look at the example sentence that I've added. Your synonyms are unravel, unwind, unscramble, and unsnarl. You'll notice we have all the UN prefixes, just like DIS, dis. At the beginning of the word disentangle, to undo something that has become complicated. Your antonyms are tangle up and snarl and snag. Your other forms, you have your other verb forms, disentangled, disentangles, and disentangling. And then disentanglement is a noun. And then my sentence is not about something physically being disentangled. I was barely able to disentangle what had happened during the crying student's emotional and hard to follow story about her cell phone being stolen. So you might find it difficult to understand a story because you need to free it from the complications as opposed to literally untangling something. So you might have to disentangle a story that somebody has told you or that you're reading to get those complications out of the way to understand it more clearly. And then we move on to fated. This is an adjective. You might know the word fate. It's obviously related to that. And so fated is a descriptive word. You use it to describe something, and it means determined in advance by destiny or fortune. Your synonyms are destined, preordained, or even doomed. If you are fated to something, it doesn't always have to be positive, and doomed definitely has a negative connotation to it, but it can go either way. Your antonyms are all words meaning things that are just kind of happening. So fortuitous, by chance, or random, that they're just sort of, they happen. There aren't any other forms, even though it is related to the word fate. That picture is from King Arthur, the Sword and the Stone. He was fated to be the future king because he was able to pull the sword out of the stone. And my sentence, a little less fancy, just like the prophecy foretold, Miss Beck was fated to teach ninth grade literature to students in the 2020s. How auspicious. Another vocab word dropped in there for you. We move on to intrepid, which is yet another adjective. We love our adjectives. Intrepid means very brave, fearless, or unshakable. Some of you might be that way. I myself am not. I would not consider myself to be intrepid. I'm scared of a lot of things. Your synonyms are valiant, audacious, and daring. Your antonyms are timid, cowardly, craven, and pusillanimous, which is a really fun word. That means cowardly. You have several other forms. Intrepidity is a noun form. Intrepidness is a noun form as well. You could have that character trait of intrepidness. And then intrepidly is the adverb. So you could describe the way a person does something. If they're doing it in a very brave, fearless, intrepid manner, you could say they did it intrepidly. That man is jumping out of a plane intrepidly. My sentence, I'm using the adjective form to describe the woman. The intrepid woman decided to go skydiving before her spelunking trip into the caves and after she fought a bear in the forest. All things that are very brave and very fearless of her to do. Then we get to one of my favorite words from this list, pompous, which is an adjective. It means overly self-important in speech and manner, or excessively stately or ceremonious. It's sort of taking yourself a little bit too seriously. I love that weird cartoon picture of the cat with the monocle and the martini glass and the top hat. And I just think of people who are pompous speaking like, yes, of course, all of my money I've invested. So it's a word that is not necessarily a positive thing if you're going to use it as an adjective to describe a person. Your synonyms are highfalutin, such a fun word, and bombastic. Your antonyms are unpretentious and plain. So again, a synonym that they didn't list for you but might be helpful. Someone who is pompous is really pretentious. They think very highly of themselves and often act or speak in a way that suggests that you probably don't really enjoy people who are pompous. It's a very negative thing. Pompously is an adverb. You could describe the way someone speaks or what they're doing or the way they're behaving or dressed as pompously. And then pompousness is our noun form. And my sentence, I can't stand people who behave in a pompous way. Just because you have more money than me doesn't make you more important. And we get to precipice, which is a noun, and it means a very steep cliff. So literally that man is sitting on the edge of a precipice in that picture. But it can also be used to mean the brink or edge of disaster. You could be at a precipice, not literally on the edge of a cliff, but at the edge of something that could go horribly, horribly wrong. Your synonyms are crag, bluff, and ledge. Your antonyms are abyss, chasm, and gorge. There aren't any other forms. And I used the word twice in my sentence, once as the first part of our definition, a steep cliff. Once the first time it's the brink or edge of disaster form, my bad. And the second one is the steep cliff one. So my sentence, the man found himself on the precipice of disaster, so the brink of disaster, when he lost his footing at the top of the cliff and was hanging off of the precipice, very steep cliff, with only one hand. And then we get to reprieve, which is both a noun and a verb. The noun form is a temporary relief or a delay. You could get a reprieve in terms of like a court session or when you have a due date for something, or you can get reprieve, meaning relief, if you're not feeling well or you're very tired. The verb form, the action form, is to grant a postponement. You can reprieve someone. Maybe you come in at work and you reprieve them of their position. They get to stop for a little while. Your synonyms are stay, respite, and delay. Your antonym is proceed, And we only have other verb forms: reprieved, reprieving, and reprieves. And this sentence is about me, very personally, but very true. As someone who suffers from horrible sinus pain and congestion all winter long, I get reprieve from taking Sudafed every other day when I am sick. So if I'm not feeling well, I can get temporary relief from those symptoms if I take a Sudafed every other day. Not every day, because that makes me feel weird, but every other day helps to relieve those symptoms and kind of put them off for a little bit while I'm sick. Then we get to revile, which is a verb, and it means to attack with words or to call someone bad names. Your synonyms are to inveigh against, to malign a person, or to vilify a person, essentially turn them into a villain. Your antonyms are praise, acclaim, revere, and idolize. You've got other verb forms of the word: reviled, reviling, and reviles. Revilement is the noun form, and then the person who is doing that attacking would be the reviler. In the sentence, obviously, the man is reviling the other one. He's yelling at him right now. In my sentence, the student was reviled by his classmates and teacher for saying that Shakespeare was was stupid, and that his plays were dumb, because obviously everyone in my classes loves William Shakespeare and would revile anyone who said otherwise, attack them with words or call them bad names. We all take it very, very seriously. And on that, we have reached the end of Unit 4B.